Hey everybody, I decided to sit outside today to read to you. The next chapter that I'm going to read to you is called Scuttlebutt, and I'll show you the picture. So it says, goofing around with my brothers and sister. In class, we got seated alphabetically by our last names. Karen Ehrenberg always sat in the first seat, front row. Not only did Karen's last name begin with A, but the letter that followed was another A. So Karen Ehrenberg had a lock on that first seat, and she sat on it like no one on earth could ever take it away. Since my last name began with an F, I often got seated in the first seat, second row, right next to Karen Ehrenberg. That suited me fine. Maybe she was a little snotty, but I liked her face, especially those bright blue eyes. One morning we were having a snack. I just started to eat a carrot when I felt her eyes on me. Have you ever heard the scuttlebutt? She asked. Huh? I wasn't sure I heard her right. The scuttlebutt, she repeated. Do you know what that word means? Yeah, I lied. It means gossip, she explained. Hey, I know. Well, have you heard the scuttlebutt? She asked again. No, I tried to look disinterested. Well, do you want to hear? She gave me a straight look. It's about you, sort of. What? Leaning forward, she motioned me closer. Your mother is going to have another baby. I stared at her, unable to tell if she was mocking me or acting smug or enjoying the shocked look that must have been plastered all over my face. She simply stared back, and her face had never looked quite so wide awake as it did in that moment. No way, I finally said. It's true, she replied, nodding. Ask your mother. I had to sit through 4 more hours before I could check the truth of this story. When I got off the bus, I rushed into the house and the kitchen. A girl in school told me you were going to have another baby, I sputtered. Is that true? Mom looked at me with raised eyebrows. Well, yes, she admitted with a sly smile. Isn't that wonderful? But why didn't you tell me? Dad and I weren't quite ready, she said. We were going to tell you in a few weeks. Who was the girl? Karen Ehrenberg. Oh, Mom nodded. I think I know what happened. I mentioned it to Polly Renshaw. Polly and Beth Ehrenberg are first cousins. Polly must have told Beth, and Beth told Karen. And Karen told me, I said. Mom, it would be nice if I knew before every other kid in school. You're right, Mom agreed. I'm sorry. By Christmas vacation, Mom was going around saying, I'm a house, aren't I? Nobody disagreed. She looked like she was about to burst. In late January, we all came home from school to find a new baby boy, Johnny, in the bassinet. Next school year, right after Thanksgiving, Karen motioned me close to her. I've got more scuttlebutt, she said softly. What? My cheeks burned like she'd smacked me hard. A baby? Yeah, another one. Karen gave me a knowing smile. My mom told me last night, hey, I'm trying to figure out all the kids in your family. Is this right? 7 kids? Am I missing anybody? She handed me a piece of paper with a list written on it. Ralph, Jimmy, Lainey, Tommy, Bobby, Johnny, new baby. I turned away without answering. Her list was accurate, but I was so mad I couldn't even look at her. And Karen seemed to understand because she didn't say another word about it for the rest of the day. Are you pregnant again, Mom? I blurted out that afternoon. At first, she looked confused. Yes. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry, she apologized for not telling me. But what good did it do? That night at supper, Mom shared the news with the whole family. Lainey, this time when I go to the hospital, maybe I'll bring you back a little sister. Lainey smiled at that. But 4 months later, on the very first day of spring, we all came home to find baby number 7, Joey, asleep in the bassinet. All right, the next chapter is called Farmed Out. And there's a picture of Johnny and Joey in the front with Jimmy, Ralph, Tommy, and Lainey in the back. Farmed Out. When Mom got pregnant, her belly swelled like bread dough rising, and when it came to deliver the baby, everybody got sent to stay with relatives. Lainey went to Grandma and Aunt Mary's house in Arlington. Tommy and Bobby went to Grandma and Grandpa's house in Fall River. Jimmy and I got the best deal of all. We went to Uncle Paul and Aunt Louisa's house in Rhode Island, and they had as many kids as we did. Aunt Louise was French Canadian. Uncle Paul was Dad's oldest brother. He was an English professor. He'd sit around the house reading thick books, smoking a pipe, and calmly ignoring the deafening racket made by all the kids running around yelling. Getting farmed out was terrific. Aunt Louise never made us clean dishes off the table or do any chores. We didn't even have to make our beds. For breakfast, she cooked fried eggs on toast sandwiches. They were so delicious. I couldn't stop eating them. On warm days, we always went to the beach. In the late afternoon, we'd walk to Broom's, a store that sold nothing but penny candy. when we got when it got dark, we ran through the neighborhood playing flashlight tag and hide and seek until the lawns turned cool and moist and bats began to appear in the sky. Aunt Louise dialed our number so Jimmy and I could talk to Mom and Dad. So you don't get homesick, she said. But honestly, I really didn't miss them. I felt a little guilty about that, but it was true. It seemed like I had shed my tight family skin for something bigger, looser, more comfortable, if only for a few days. The next chapter is called Baby. And there's a picture. It says me, so that's Ralph at age 3, feeding a bottle to Lainey while Jimmy feeds himself. Okay, Baby. Can we get a pet? Lainey asked. A kitten? A dog? Please? Every year we posed the question. We begged. We pleaded. But Mom and Dad always had the same answer. We've already got enough little animals running around here, they'd say. God knows we don't need another. In our house, most of the action took place in the kitchen. Mom talking on the telephone, kids and friends eating popcorn or slurping watermelon or sucking popsicles and jabbering nonstop around the big table. The kitchen was the heart of our house, and the baby's playpen stood in the center of the kitchen. I never got used to the calm, knowing look in Karen Ehrenberg's eyes when she turned to ask, "Have you heard the scuttlebutt?" But I sure had gotten used to babies because Mom brought them home from the hospital regular as once-a-year holidays. The newest baby stayed close to Mom for the first few months, nursing, sleeping a lot. We had a creaky white bassinet with wooden wheels so you could move it around the house. When the baby reached 6 months, it graduated to the playpen, and this meant that whoever had been in the playpen got released from the baby cage, free, so it could stagger unsteadily around the house, pulling everything it could off the shelves and tables, leaving a mess wherever it went. I loved the Fletcher baby, whoever it was, whatever its name. I loved the pudgy little body, the gummy grins, the milky breath, the soft spot on top of its head. I loved coming in from outside to see my big-eyed little creature in the playpen, drooling, yelling, cooing, laughing, fussing, peekabooing, its head swiveling this way and that, trying to follow all of the antics of the big kids. Mom barely had a second to breathe with doing laundry, answering the phone, cooking supper, or nursing the new baby. So when the baby started crying, I'd help out. We all did. I knew how to pick up the baby and tell if its diaper was dirty or clean by how spongy it was. I knew how to change dirty diapers and avoided the messiest ones, how to pin the cloth diapers without poking the baby. I was good at telling the difference between "I'm really hungry" crying and "I'm just bored" fussing. I loved the taste of baby food and always sneaked a few bites when Mom wasn't looking. I knew how to warm up a bottle of milk in a saucepan on the stove and squirt a little on my wrist to make sure that the milk wasn't too hot. I could pick up the baby and walk around with it, cocking my right hip so that the baby would have a nice little ledge to sit on while I held it snug with one hand and rummaged through the cabinet for a teething biscuit with the other. With the eternal Fletcher baby sitting in the playpen year after year, I sort of became an expert on the subject.